Have you guys looked at the prices of most general office software nowadays? It's rather depressing to see. Microsoft Office for years has been the standard for most basic Office software packages, and I'm willing to bet that it's the first thing you guys think of when you think of a word processor, a spreadsheet program, a slideshow program, and what have you. But oh my, that's a little expensive. Especially if you don't find yourself in a great need of many of the specialized flourishes that come with such a program. Considering that Microsoft is really pushing hard for the subscription service version of Office now, and even when you buy the physical programs, they require a Microsoft account, whether you want one or not, and their insistence on keeping you signed into their servers while you use the program is rather annoying. I don't know, maybe in terms of a larger business using these programs, they actually appreciate all of these little flourishes and nuances that come with the program, but when it comes to me, I don't really need something that complex, and paying over $100 for a program that I'm just going to use for typing and maybe some spreadsheet work seems like a pretty damn big waste. It isn't like there aren't alternatives out there. I mean, basic word processing was one of the first things thought up for a computer when it became widely available. You know, right after how they could play games on it. But none of them are really meant for heavy word processing, and are fairly limited in their functions. I mean, you've got Notepad that comes standard with Windows and basically has since Windows 1.0, though it's basically just that, a notepad, and isn't really that good for anything other than quick notes and reminders. Wordpad, which started getting packed in with Windows around 95, is definitely a better alternative, but is incredibly basic, meant for minor word processing, some basic formatting and the like. And there are a ton of other examples of basic word processing. It's not like you won't ever be able to type out your Friendship is Magic fantasy fanfiction, save it, and then upload it to a site where everyone can see it. And then ridicule it because people don't have an appreciation for good storytelling anymore. Sorry, I was getting too real for a second. However, a lot of the free or pack-in word processors and text editors out there don't give you a whole lot of options, just the basics that anyone would expect from a bare-bones package. You can't really do a whole lot in terms of modifying the look and feel of a document for different uses and purposes the way you can with those big, fancy, expensive packages. But every once in a while, you come across a program that's not only powerful, but also sells for the very low price of nothing. Today, we're taking a look at my preferred Office software of choice, Apache Software's OpenOffice. Also, just to satisfy anyone out there who would otherwise try to make a big stink out of this, I am not associated or affiliated with Apache Software in any way, I just happen to be a really big fan of their products. What makes this so much better than the other free options out there? Well, I'll be honest, not much. Pretty much all of the free Office software out there is pretty comparable in what it offers you, with the only big difference being a few specific features that it largely is going to depend on whether or not you need them. If you don't need anything more complex than a pretty good word processor, then which one of the free pieces of software you want is mostly just up to preference. I personally go with OpenOffice just because it feels comfy for me. I'm not gonna focus much more on the other free alternative Office software, and a lot of what I say, at least in terms of basic word processing, can probably be applied to most of them. So let's start off with that. The word processor in this suite feels good. It feels intuitive, and of course it's pretty easy to reach all of the basic stuff. Alignment, bolds, italics, text color, and it has a very robust menu system for more complex formatting. There's even a series of buttons near the top for things like find and replace, creating tables, showing non-printable characters, and a slew of other very helpful shortcuts. The only thing I don't really like about the word processing features in this program is that there aren't a whole lot of keyboard shortcuts that can be used. You have the basic stuff from the file menu like saving and printing, but things like exporting as a PDF, another very useful feature in this program, requires you to go straight into the menu to access it. Add to it, most of the functions that do have keyboard shortcuts already have a default button available up on the toolbar panel. Some of the more involved ways of editing and altering the look or dimensions of a document are a little bit unintuitive, and the entire thing reminds me a lot of the design of WordPerfect or Microsoft Word from back in, say, 2007 or so. The toolbars are also pretty modular. You can close ones that you don't use very often, or detach ones into a separate panel that you prefer to have somewhere else, or add other panels to the top or side rows. I like when I'm able to organize and customize the layout of a program so that I only ever have to use tools in front of me that I use on a regular basis. It's one of the things I really like about the Adobe products too, their modular nature. Of course, Adobe's price tag is still pretty damn high, and it just goes to show that you're perfectly capable of putting in conveniences and intuitive use into a program with a low or non-existent price tag. But maybe that's just like comparing apples to oranges. Anyway, so yeah, not much more to say about the word processor than that. It's a damn good word processor, and it's perfect for typing out anything that you like. A grocery list, a poem, that novel you've been working on for the past 3 years, or even the script to a crappy YouTube video review. Wait, but let's take a quick look at some of the other parts of the program, OpenOffice boasts not only a word processor, but also a spreadsheet, a presentation, a drawing program, a database program, and a formula program. Okay. Spreadsheet is basically Excel Lite, and it does all the stuff that you'd expect Excel to be able to do. Creating a spreadsheet is simple, organizing it is incredibly intuitive, and the layout and setup of the default buttons on the thing are pretty similar to how they were set up in the word processor, with a few buttons that are specific to it, such as calculating sums and organizing tables. One thing that I do find kind of annoying is that it's only capable of organizing so many rows or columns at once, alphabetically. You can have as many rows and columns as you want, but the program is only capable of alphabetizing up to a total of 3 rows or 3 columns at a time. Basically meaning, I can select as many rows as I want to organize, but I can't go over 3 columns if that's the case, or vice versa. It's a rather arbitrary limitation that makes organizing larger spreadsheets a bit of a hassle. Then again, if you are working with a spreadsheet, chances are good you already know how to stay organized while you're entering in data. Presentation is basically PowerPoint, and after a quick startup wizard giving you some basic choices for the look and flow of your presentation, you're booted into the main Slideshow Editor, and wow, it's basically laid out exactly like an older version of PowerPoint. In fact, I think I might like this one even more than PowerPoint in every aspect. You could make the argument with Word or Excel that there are a lot of powerful features in those programs that you don't get in a free program like this that could be essential to someone who uses those programs on a regular basis, or that helps to make their workflow a little better or a little faster. When it comes to creating a slideshow of any sort, however, I've always been a firm believer that it doesn't need to be anything complex when you're presenting something. Sure, it needs to look good, but you don't need a powerful program to do that. It just needs to feel intuitive, and I feel like this does. Adding and altering content feels simple, it feels nice. Building a good presentation here is just as easy as it would be in a big budget program like PowerPoint, just without the price tag. And then you have the drawing program, which is okay. Rather than taking its cues from an MS Office program, this one seems to be a bit closer in layout and function to something like Adobe Illustrator or Adobe InDesign. Of course, it's nowhere near those two programs in complexity, but as far as a free drawing and design program goes, I'd say it's good for someone who isn't a professional artist and just wants to faff about in something that isn't as basic as MS Paint, but feels a bit more intuitive and user-friendly than something like GIMP, which, don't get me wrong, is a fine freebie picture editor and art program, but I definitely wouldn't call it something easy to use or understand at first glance. A database is, well, it's something I haven't really experimented with, so I can't comment much on what it's used for. Then again, I've never really used Microsoft Access, a program it's taking its cues from, either, so I don't feel like I could really give this one a proper analysis. So I'll just say it seems pretty comparable to Access in the same way that Word Processor is comparable to Word, and leave it at that. And finally, there's Formula, which is, well, it certainly exists. I'm sure there's some mathematician or engineer out there that could use this thing and find it useful. Back me up on this, Astro. So that's basically the entirety of the OpenOffice suite. Pretty damn versatile, I gotta say, and perfect for anyone who needs the basics or some slightly advanced features that you'd want to see in an alternative to professional office software. I started using this program around 2011 or so when I had to refresh my operating system, long story there, and the license I held for Microsoft Office was no longer valid. Thank you for that, Microsoft. So, since I had shit to do and not willing to type out college essays on Apple Pages, I found it, I started using it, and I've never looked back. Back then, there were a few issues with the program's stability, and it would crash every now and then for seemingly no reason. But these were rare and easy enough to work around. I'm pleased to say I haven't had the program crash on me once for like 3 years. And in the rare instances where the program has to close without me saving a document, like for example leaving it open overnight and then Windows 10 decides now would be a good time to just up and turn off for an update, OpenOffice has a fantastic recovery protocol in it that has never once failed to recover a lost document for me. I can't really say the same about Microsoft Office. Another very minor criticism that one can have with the program is that it automatically defaults to saving your document in its own particular file format, .odt. In fact, each of the programs in the suite have their own document type for their default. However, that's not nearly as big an issue nowadays as it used to be, as ODT and all of these other formats can be opened in their equivalents in Microsoft Office and most other open-source word processors. Of course, if you're the type who prefers saving in a more well-known document format, OpenOffice is capable of saving most forms of documents in file types more well-known to the masses, like DOC or DOCX for Microsoft Word, XLS for spreadsheets, and so on and so forth. The downside to this is, as the program is quick to point out when attempting to save in any of these other formats, some of them might not support the same sort of formatting as the others, though this is true for any Office program. It doesn't matter if you're using OpenOffice, LibreOffice, WordPerfect, Office Word, or Google Docs, if you're saving something in plain text format, chances are good a lot of those fancy formatting tricks aren't going to survive the trip. Other than that, yeah, this is pretty much the complete package. I guess I can't be too harsh on Microsoft Office. Obviously, they're still making money, and their Office suite does offer a lot of perks that would be very good for someone who is deep in the business side of things. But for the layman like me, the restrictive nature of the program — you now can't even activate the damn thing without a Microsoft account, even if you only plan on using it offline — combined with increasingly steep prices, $180 or so for the absolute most basic version of the program if you don't feel like paying the monthly fee to be able to use their exchange services, has really turned me off of being a fan of their program. While your choice in free Office software might differ from mine, and I've already outlined that any of them are good alternatives for the layman who's not trying to run an office of their own, my own personal choice will always be OpenOffice. It's a fantastic program and well worth your time and effort. If you ever find yourself in need of some pretty reliable Office software, a cut above the basic free pack-in stuff, but don't want to shell out $100 or more for a suite you're only going to use a handful of features in, you can't go wrong with it. Or LibreOffice. Or Google Docs. You know what? Just start using Freeware, people. Stop paying for something you don't really need. It's a simple concept. So yeah, OpenOffice. Good program. Thanks for watching. Bye.